January 2020. The winter air hung heavy over the small town of Brookhaven, a place where secrets hid in plain sight. Emma Harper, a 17-year-old high school junior, trudged through the hallways of Brookhaven High with her head down, her books clutched tightly to her chest. The whispered taunts followed her like shadows, relentless and biting. "Watch where you're going, loser." A shove from behind sent her stumbling into a row of lockers. Emma's heart raced as laughter erupted around her. Turning, she came face to face with Olivia Carter, the school's 19-year-old senior cheerleader. With her perfect smile and piercing blue eyes, Olivia exuded power, a power she wielded mercilessly. Emma didn't respond. She never did. Instead, she bent down to gather her scattered books, her cheeks burning with humiliation. Behind her, Olivia smirked, flipping her blonde hair over her shoulder. "Careful, Emma. You wouldn't want to trip and break that little spirit of yours," Olivia sneered, her voice dripping with mockery. This had been Emma's reality for months. Olivia didn't just bully her, she orchestrated a campaign of psychological warfare. Rumors spread like wildfire, cruel jokes about Emma's deceased mother and her quiet demeanor. Olivia made sure Emma had no allies, turning classmates into accomplices or silencing them with fear. Social media was Olivia's weapon of choice, a platform she used to broadcast humiliating memes and fabricate stories about Emma's personal life. Emma's world was shrinking, suffocating under the weight of isolation. At home, her sanctuary had turned into a cage of silence. Her father, David Harper, worked long hours to provide for them after the death of Emma's mother. He didn't notice the changes in Emma, the way her shoulders slumped, the haunted look in her eyes, or the nights she cried herself to sleep. It was a Friday evening in late February when Emma finally broke. She sat at the kitchen table, her trembling hands gripping a mug of untouched tea. David looked up from his laptop, noticing her pale face and red-rimmed eyes. "Emma?" he asked, concern flickering across his features. I can't do this anymore," Emma whispered, her voice cracking. "Dad, she won't stop. She's everywhere. At school, online, even here, in my head. Olivia won't leave me alone." David froze. The name Olivia Carter wasn't new to him, he'd heard it in passing but dismissed it as teenage drama. Now, hearing the raw pain in Emma's voice, guilt crashed over him like a wave. How had he been so blind? "Tell me everything," David urged, leaning forward. Over the next hour, Emma poured out her anguish, the shoves, the mocking laughter, the social media posts. She spoke of the sleepless nights and the mounting dread of facing another day at school. By the time she finished, tears streamed down her face. David sat in stunned silence, his jaw tight, his fists clenched. He had failed her. The realization cut deeper than he thought possible. "This ends now," David said, his voice steady but laced with anger. "I'm going to talk to her." Emma looked up, her eyes wide with a flicker of hope. "You mean it?" "I promise," he said firmly. But as David planned his confrontation with Olivia, neither he nor Emma could have foreseen how far the cheerleader's cruelty could stretch, and the darkness it would soon bring to their lives. This was only the beginning. March 1, 2020. The tension in David Harper's chest was suffocating as he parked his car outside Brookhaven High School's dimly lit gymnasium. Through the frosted windshield, he saw the cheerleaders finishing practice, their laughter echoing through the brisk night air. Among them was Olivia Carter, her commanding presence unmistakable. She moved with the confidence of someone who knew the world bent to her will. David gripped the steering wheel tightly, his knuckles turning white. He wasn't used to confrontation, but the thought of Emma's tear-streaked face fueled his determination. This had to stop. Tonight. Olivia lingered behind her teammates, adjusting her duffel bag as the others left. David stepped out of his car, his boots crunching against the gravel. As he approached, Olivia's head turned sharply, her eyes narrowing. She seemed unfazed by the sight of him, a stark contrast to the storm raging inside him. "Olivia," David called out, his voice steady despite the knot in his stomach. "We need to talk." She raised an eyebrow, her lips curling into a slight smirk. "Mr. Harper, right? Emma's dad?" Her tone was casual, almost mocking, as if she already knew what this was about. David took a deep breath, his pulse pounding in his ears. "You need to stop tormenting my daughter. Whatever you think you're gaining from this, it ends now." Olivia chuckled softly, stepping closer. Her cheerleader's uniform and ponytail made her look almost innocent, but her eyes glinted with something darker. "Tormenting? That's a strong word. I'm just helping her toughen up a bit. The world's a cruel place, you know." David's fists clenched at his sides. "This isn't about toughening up. It's bullying. Emma's struggling, and you're the cause. If you don't stop, I'll go to the school board, the police, whatever it takes." Olivia's expression shifted. The feigned innocence melted away, replaced by a cold calculation. She tilted her head, studying him as if he were a puzzle she was piecing together. "You're serious," she said, her voice low. "Interesting." David's frustration boiled over. "This isn't a game, Olivia. Leave Emma alone, or I will make sure you regret it." For a moment, silence hung between them. Then Olivia took another step closer, her smirk returning, but now it carried an edge of intrigue. "You're a good dad, Mr. Harper. It's cute how protective you are. But threats?" She let out a mock gasp. "Not very professional, is it?" David's jaw tightened. He wasn't prepared for her brazenness, her ability to twist the situation to her advantage. Before he could respond, Olivia leaned in slightly, her voice dropping to a near whisper. "You know, you're kind of fascinating. All serious, all intense. Maybe you and I aren't so different. We both just want control." Her words hit him like a punch to the gut. "What are you talking about?" Olivia stepped back, her smirk widening. "Relax, Mr. Harper. I'm just saying, we could figure this out differently. No need to get anyone else involved." David blinked, caught off guard. Her demeanor was unervingly self-assured, her manipulation masterful. He knew he should walk away, but something about her words, her tone, froze him in place. "You should go home, Mr. Harper," Olivia said finally, her voice light and airy again. "Think about it. Maybe you'll realize there's no need for drama." As she turned and walked away, David remained rooted to the spot, confusion and anger warring within him. What had just happened? He had come here to defend his daughter, to confront her tormentor, but now he felt like he'd walked into a trap he couldn't quite see. When he finally returned to his car, his hands trembled on the steering wheel. The meeting hadn't gone at all as planned. And in the back of his mind, a chilling thought crept in: Olivia Carter wasn't just some high school bully. She was something far more dangerous. He started the car and drove home, replaying the conversation in his head. Emma needed him now more than ever. But even as he promised himself he'd protect her, a shadow of doubt began to settle over him. Unbeknownst to him, Olivia watched from the shadows of the gym's entrance, her smile growing colder. She had seen the vulnerability in his eyes, the cracks in his resolve. This was going to be fun. From March to May 2020, the Harper household grew colder, quieter, and filled with an unspoken tension that Emma couldn't ignore. Her once safe haven had become suffocating. David, her father, was no longer the attentive, protective man she knew. His late-night absences, the quick dismissals of her concerns, and the distant look in his eyes told Emma that something had changed. At school, Olivia Carter's torment reached new heights. The taunts were sharper, the rumors more vicious. But what unnerved Emma the most was Olivia's newfound confidence, as if she held a secret that made her untouchable. Every smirk Olivia threw her way in the hallways, every whispered laugh with her cheerleader friends, seemed to scream, "You've already lost." Emma tried to confront her father. "Dad, she's not stopping," she said one evening in mid-March, her voice trembling. "Olivia is worse than ever. She's ruining my life." David barely looked up from the table where he sat nursing a half-empty glass of whiskey. "Emma, you're overreacting," he muttered, his tone dismissive. "She's just a teenager being a teenager. Ignore her." The words stung like a slap. Emma blinked, unsure whether to scream or cry. "You don't get it," she said, her voice breaking. "She's making my life hell. How can you not see that?" David stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. "Enough, Emma," he snapped. "I'm doing everything I can to hold this family together, and all I get is whining about some high school drama. Grow up." Emma's heart sank. The man standing before her didn't feel like her father anymore. She stared at him, searching for a hint of the man who used to comfort her when life became unbearable, but all she saw was someone who had checked out of their relationship entirely. As the weeks passed, Emma's suspicions grew. Her father's behavior was erratic, long absences, whispered phone calls, and the way he tensed up whenever she asked where he'd been. Then there was Olivia, who started appearing in places she didn't belong. The first time Emma saw her in their driveway, she thought it was a mistake. Olivia had claimed she was dropping something off for a project, though Emma knew that was a lie. Then Olivia started coming inside. Emma would return home from school to find Olivia in the kitchen, casually chatting with her father as though she belonged there. The sight made Emma's stomach churn. "What is she doing here?" Emma asked one evening, her voice shaking with barely concealed anger. "Olivia is just here to help with something," David said dismissively, not even bothering to look at her. Olivia, perched on a stool, smirked at Emma with that same glint of power in her eyes. "Hi, Emma," Olivia said sweetly, her tone dripping with mockery. "How was school?" Emma's fists clenched at her sides. She wanted to scream, to throw something, but she bit her tongue and stormed to her room instead. There, in the suffocating silence, the pieces began to fall into place. The absences. The sudden change in her father's mood. Olivia's smug demeanor. Emma couldn't prove it yet, but she knew. Something was happening between her father and Olivia. By mid-May, Emma's resolve had hardened. She had to know the truth. Late one night, while her father was asleep, she crept into the living room and took his phone from the table. Her hands trembled as she navigated the unfamiliar device, scrolling through messages until she found the thread she was dreading. Her breath caught in her throat as she read the texts. They were explicit, undeniable, and shattered whatever fragile hope she had left. Message after message revealed the truth: her father was having an affair with Olivia, the very person who had tormented her every day at school. Tears blurred Emma's vision, but her anger burned hotter than her grief. How could he? How could her own father betray her like this? The next morning, Emma confronted him. She held his phone in her trembling hand, her voice cracking as she demanded, "How could you? How could you do this to me?" David's face paled as he saw the screen. But instead of guilt or remorse, his expression twisted into anger. "What are you doing going through my phone?" he snapped. "You had no right." "No right?" Emma cried, her voice rising. "You're sleeping with her. She's been tormenting me for months, and you just let it happen." David slammed his hand on the table, silencing her. "That's enough, Emma. You've crossed a line. Stay out of my business." Emma staggered back, the fight draining from her. He didn't even deny it. He wasn't sorry. She felt like the ground beneath her had crumbled entirely. For the first time in her life, Emma felt completely alone. But she wasn't done fighting, not yet. If her father wouldn't protect her, she would find someone who would. May 20th, 2020. Emma Harper sat in her room, the glow of her laptop screen illuminating her tear-streaked face. The weight of betrayal clung to her like a heavy fog. Her father's affair with Olivia Carter, the girl who had made her life unbearable, was a secret too devastating to hold alone. She had to do something. Emma opened her browser and typed with trembling fingers, "What do I do if my bully is ruining my life?" The search results offered little comfort, but one thread on an anonymous forum caught her eye: "When the adults fail you, go to someone who won't ignore you." A spark of defiance ignited within her. If her father wouldn't listen, she'd find someone who would. Scrolling through her mental list of possible allies, Emma landed on an unlikely choice: Olivia's parents, Mr. and Mrs. Carter. They were known in Brookhaven as an upstanding family, deeply involved in the community and protective of their reputation. They had no idea what their daughter was capable of, but Emma would make sure they found out. The next evening, Emma waited until her father left the house before making the call. Her heart pounded as the phone rang, and when Mrs. Carter's voice answered, warm and polite, Emma nearly hung up. Summoning her courage, she blurted out, "Mrs. Carter, it's Emma Harper. I need to talk to you about Olivia." There was a pause, then a shift in tone. "Olivia? Is everything all right?" "No," Emma said, her voice cracking. "It's not. She's been bullying me for months, and now Emma hesitated, but the words spilled out. "She's having an affair with my father." The silence on the other end was deafening. When Mrs. Carter finally spoke, her voice was sharp, controlled. "Emma, this is a serious accusation." "I have proof," Emma said, desperation seeping into her tone. "Texts. I'll send them to you. Please, you need to stop her." By the time the call ended, Emma felt a flicker of hope for the first time in weeks. If anyone could rein Olivia in, it was her parents. Underscore 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 underscore. The next day, the Carter household erupted into chaos. Mr. and Mrs. Carter confronted Olivia, armed with Emma's evidence. At first, Olivia denied everything, her usual confidence slipping into indignation. But when pressed, she snapped, "So what if I was? It's not like I'm the first girl to have some fun." "Fun?" Mrs. Carter's voice trembled with outrage. "You've humiliated us. Do you understand what this could do to our family? To our reputation?" "You don't understand anything," Olivia hissed, her eyes blazing with defiance. "Emma's the problem here. She's the one who—" "Enough!" Mr. Carter thundered. "This stops now. You're ending whatever this is with David Harper, and you'll apologize to Emma. If you don't, we'll send you away to college early, and trust me, you won't have a choice about where." Olivia stared at them, her jaw clenched. For a moment, it seemed like she might submit, but as the reality of her loss sank in, her expression darkened. Her parents might have forced her hand, but Olivia wasn't one to accept defeat easily. Underscore 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 underscore. The following week, Olivia's behavior toward Emma shifted. The cruel smirks and mocking comments disappeared, replaced by icy glares. Olivia avoided Emma at school, but her silence felt more ominous than her words ever had. Emma couldn't shake the feeling that something was brewing. Her fears were confirmed when, one evening, Olivia appeared on their doorstep. Emma's stomach churned as she heard her voice in the living room, sweet and apologetic. "I just wanted to stop by and make things right with Emma," Olivia said. "I owe her an apology." David, oblivious to the tension, welcomed Olivia inside. Emma stayed frozen in her room, listening to their conversation. After what felt like hours, Olivia finally left, but not before slipping Emma a note under her bedroom door. Unfolding the paper, Emma read the words scrawled in Olivia's neat handwriting, "You made this personal. Be ready." The message sent a chill down Emma's spine. She knew Olivia wasn't just talking about school or social media. The game had escalated, and Emma was no longer sure she'd survive what came next. Unbeknownst to Emma, Olivia was already laying the groundwork for her next move. Her anger festered, growing into a single, chilling thought: if Emma was out of the picture, everything would go back to the way it was. Olivia's mind spiraled, plotting a way to regain control, permanently. The stage was set for a confrontation that would change their lives forever. June 25, 2020. The summer evening carried a sticky humidity, and the air hung with an eerie stillness as Emma Harper trudged toward the abandoned factory on the outskirts of Brookhaven. She clutched her phone tightly, her heart racing as she replayed Olivia's message in her head. "Emma, I want to end this. Meet me at the old factory tonight, 7 p.m. No games, no drama. Let's talk." The words had felt almost sincere. Almost. But Emma couldn't shake the nagging sense of unease. Olivia had never been one to back down without a fight, and her sudden olive branch didn't feel like peace, it felt like a warning. Still, Emma's desperation to end the nightmare overpowered her instincts. She had to try. The factory loomed ahead, its rusted metal frame casting jagged shadows in the fading light. Emma hesitated at the entrance, her eyes scanning the desolate surroundings. The building, long abandoned, smelled of damp concrete and decay. Broken windows and graffiti-covered walls hinted at years of neglect. "Olivia," she called, her voice trembling as it echoed through the cavernous space. Footsteps answered her. Then, Olivia Carter emerged from the shadows, dressed in a simple hoodie and jeans, her blonde hair pulled back into a tight ponytail. Her expression was unreadable, a mask of calm that only heightened Emma's anxiety. "You came," Olivia said, her voice steady. "I wasn't sure you would." Emma's grip on her phone tightened. "What do you want, Olivia? Why did you ask me here?" Olivia sighed, a theatrical gesture that felt rehearsed. "I thought maybe we could clear the air. Maybe we both went too far." Emma's brow furrowed. "Went too far? You destroyed my life. You manipulated my father, humiliated me at school, and made sure I had no one to turn to. You think we're equally to blame?" Olivia's calm facade cracked for a moment, a flicker of something darker crossing her face. Then she laughed, a cold, hollow sound that echoed off the walls. "You always were the little victim, weren't you? Poor Emma Harper. Always the innocent one." Emma took a step back, her instinct screaming that something was wrong. "I'm leaving," she said, her voice firm. This was a mistake. But before she could turn, a group of Olivia's friends appeared from the shadows, their faces masked with a mixture of hesitation and guilt. Emma's stomach dropped. She recognized them from school, girls who had stood by Olivia's side, laughing at her jokes, but never directly joining in her cruelty. Until now. "Stay," Olivia said, her voice sharp. "We're just getting started." Emma's pulse quickened as the group closed in. "What is this?" she demanded, her voice rising. "What are you trying to do?" Olivia stepped closer, her eyes glinting with a dangerous intensity. "It's just a little fun, Emma. A prank, really. But you've made it personal. You've ruined everything for me, and now I need to remind you who's in control." Before Emma could respond, Olivia lunged. In her hand was a rusted metal pipe, pulled from the factory's debris. The first blow came so fast that Emma barely had time to react, the impact sending her crashing to the ground. Pain exploded in her side as she gasped for air. The other girls froze, their expressions shifting from amusement to horror. "Olivia, stop," one of them shouted, but Olivia was too far gone. Her anger consumed her, each swing of the pipe fueled by months of pent-up rage. Emma screamed, her voice echoing into the night, but the factory walls swallowed the sound. The girls scattered, their footsteps fading as they fled the scene, leaving Emma alone with her tormentor. Olivia's breathing was ragged, her face twisted with a mix of triumph and fury as she stood over Emma's motionless body. For a moment, the only sound was the drip of water from a leaky pipe and the distant hum of the summer night. Olivia dropped the weapon, her hands trembling as the reality of what she'd done began to sink in. Blood pooled beneath Emma, staining the cracked concrete floor. Panic set in. Olivia looked around, her chest heaving as she realized there was no undoing this. Without another glance at Emma, she turned and ran, disappearing into the night. Underscore 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 underscore. The factory fell silent, save for the distant chirping of crickets. Emma's body lay still, the faint light from a broken window casting long shadows across the room. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barked, and the world outside continued, oblivious to the tragedy within. It would be hours before anyone stumbled upon the scene. By then, the damage would be done, and the wheels of justice would begin to turn. But for Emma Harper, it was already too late. June 26, 2020. The morning sun bathed Brookhaven in a deceptive warmth as Detective Michael Barrett arrived at the abandoned factory. The call had come in early. A passerby taking a shortcut through the desolate area had stumbled upon the lifeless body of a young girl. Now, the site buzzed with the subdued urgency of a crime scene, officers moving carefully as they cordoned off the area with yellow tape. Barrett adjusted his tie and stepped into the shadowy building, his sharp eyes scanning the surroundings. The factory was a grim labyrinth of rusted metal and decaying walls, but the scene near the center told a far darker story. Emma Harper lay motionless on the cold concrete, her body battered and broken, surrounded by evidence of a violent struggle. Blood had pooled beneath her head, a stark red against the dull gray floor. Kneeling beside the body, Barrett took in the details, the angle of the injuries, the scattered debris, the faint drag marks on the ground. Blunt force trauma, the medical examiner said quietly. Multiple strikes. Likely a pipe or similar object. Barrett's jaw tightened. This wasn't a random act of violence. The brutality spoke of personal rage. He stood and turned to the officer beside him. "I want a full sweep of this place, fingerprints, fibers, anything we can use. And canvass the area. Someone must have seen or heard something." Underscore 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 underscore. By midday, the identity of the victim was confirmed, Emma Harper, a local high school junior. The news sent shockwaves through the small town. At Brookhaven High, students whispered in hushed tones, their gazes darting toward Olivia Carter and her friends. Olivia, however, maintained her usual composure, though there was a flicker of something in her eyes, a hint of unease buried beneath layers of practiced confidence. Detective Barrett began his investigation by speaking with Emma's father, David Harper. Barrett had seen many grieving parents in his career, but something about David's demeanor struck him as off. His grief seemed genuine, yet there was an edge to his behavior, a hesitation, a nervous energy that Barrett couldn't ignore. "She mentioned trouble at school," David said, his voice hoarse. "A girl. Olivia Carter. Emma said she was bullying her." Barrett noted the name and pressed further. "And did Emma say anything about threats? Did she seem scared?" David hesitated, his gaze dropping to the floor. She was upset. But I didn't realize how bad it was. I should have done more." Barrett studied him for a moment before moving on. Next, he turned his attention to Olivia Carter. She sat across from him in the interrogation room, her expression carefully neutral. "I don't know what happened," Olivia said, her voice steady. "Emma and I weren't friends, but I had nothing to do with that." Barrett leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. "Emma's father says you bullied her. Other students back that up. And yet, here you are, acting like none of this touches you." Olivia's mask slipped for a fraction of a second, annoyance flashing across her face. "People love to talk. I didn't do anything to her." But cracks began to form in Olivia's story. Texts recovered from her phone revealed conversations with her friends, discussing a prank the night of Emma's death. When Barrett questioned the girls, one broke under pressure, admitting that they had been at the factory with Olivia but fled when things got out of hand. "She said it was just to scare Emma," the girl sobbed. "But then she hit her. Over and over. We didn't know what to do." This confession, combined with forensic evidence from the scene, fingerprints on the pipe, Olivia's DNA on Emma's clothing, was damning. Barrett pieced together the events of that fateful night, the brutal reality of Emma's final moments coming into focus. Underscore 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 underscore. On July 5, 2020, Olivia Carter was arrested for the murder of Emma Harper. The news spread like wildfire, and the town erupted in a storm of anger and disbelief. Olivia's parents, once pillars of the community, retreated from public view, their reputation in tatters. The other girls involved were charged as accessories, their roles in the crime laid bare. As Barrett watched Olivia being led away in handcuffs, he felt a grim satisfaction. Justice was beginning to take shape, but the case left a heavy weight on his shoulders. Emma Harper's life had ended far too soon, her potential snuffed out by cruelty and rage. And then there was David Harper. Barrett couldn't shake the nagging feeling that David's role in this tragedy wasn't as peripheral as it seemed. The texts between David and Olivia painted a disturbing picture, one that complicated the narrative of a grieving father seeking justice for his daughter. Barrett filed the thought away for later. For now, his focus was on ensuring that Emma's killer faced the consequences of her actions. But he knew the story wasn't over. Not yet. July 15, 2020. The courthouse in Brookhaven was packed to capacity. The murder of Emma Harper had gripped the small town like a vice, and the trial of Olivia Carter promised answers to questions that had haunted the community for weeks. Reporters filled the back rows, their cameras trained on the defendant as she entered the courtroom. Olivia, dressed in a demure gray suit, sat at the defense table, her once confident demeanor replaced by a guarded unease. The prosecution wasted no time laying out its case. The lead prosecutor, a steely woman named Rachel Clark, began with a chilling summary of Emma's final moments. "This was not an accident," Clark said, her voice firm. "This was a calculated, cruel act fueled by rage and a desire for control." She presented evidence with precision, text messages detailing Olivia's plan, witness testimonies from her friends, and the forensic analysis linking Olivia to the murder weapon. The jury sat stone-faced as graphic images of the crime scene were shown, the brutality of the act laid bare. On the other side, Olivia's defense team tried to paint a different picture. They argued that the incident was a tragic escalation of a prank gone wrong, not premeditated murder. Olivia Carter is a young woman who made a terrible mistake, her lawyer claimed. But she is not a cold-blooded killer. Their argument faltered under the weight of evidence. The prosecution revealed how Olivia had manipulated not just Emma, but those around her, including her friends and even Emma's father. The jury listened intently as the prosecution connected Olivia's bullying to the escalating events that culminated in Emma's death. Underscore 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 underscore. David Harper took the stand on the third day of the trial. The courtroom buzzed with tension as he was sworn in. To the townspeople, David was both a grieving father and a man whose involvement with Olivia had cast a long shadow over the case. David's testimony was raw, his voice trembling as he recounted the discovery of his daughter's suffering and his own guilt for not acting sooner. "I failed Emma," he said, tears streaming down his face. "I let her down when she needed me the most." Under cross-examination, however, the defense seized on his affair with Olivia. The courtroom held its breath as David admitted to the relationship, his face pale with shame. "I was manipulated," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "But that doesn't excuse what happened. Olivia used me, just like she used everyone else." The admission sent shockwaves through the courtroom. Reporters scribbled furiously, and whispers spread like wildfire. The jury now had to weigh not just the crime, but the toxic web of deceit and betrayal that surrounded it. Underscore 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 underscore. By August 20, 2020, the trial had reached its climax. In closing arguments, Rachel Clark spoke directly to the jury. "Emma Harper was a victim in every sense of the word," she said. "She was targeted, isolated, and ultimately killed by someone who reveled in their power over others. Olivia Carter must be held accountable." After 3 hours of deliberation, the jury returned with their verdict: guilty of first-degree murder. The judge, a stern-faced man with decades of experience, sentenced Olivia to life in prison without the possibility of parole. As the sentence was read, Olivia's mask finally cracked. Tears streamed down her face as she was led out of the courtroom in handcuffs. The once proud cheerleader, who had controlled so much of her world, now faced a lifetime behind bars. Underscore 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 underscore. The aftermath of the trial left no one unscathed. Olivia's parents, humiliated and devastated, sold their house and left town to escape the scandal. Her friends, who had played minor roles in the crime, were sentenced to probation and community service, their futures forever tainted by their involvement. David Harper's life crumbled further. Though he was not charged with any crimes, the affair and his failure to protect Emma made him a pariah in Brookhaven. Former friends avoided him, and whispers followed him wherever he went. Unable to bear the weight of his guilt and the town's judgment, David packed his belongings into an old suitcase and left Brookhaven for good. Before leaving, he visited Emma's grave one last time. Standing alone in the cemetery, he placed a small bouquet of her favorite flowers on the headstone. "I'm so sorry, Emma," he whispered, his voice choked with emotion. "I should have done more." Underscore 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 underscore. Emma's story became a grim cautionary tale, a reminder of how unchecked cruelty and manipulation can spiral into tragedy. Her death left an indelible mark on the town, prompting discussions about bullying, mental health, and the responsibilities of adults to protect the vulnerable. Detective Michael Barrett, who had pursued the case with relentless determination, visited the cemetery months later. He stood silently by Emma's grave, reflecting on the tragedy that had consumed his town. Though justice had been served, the cost had been immeasurable. For Brookhaven, life moved on, but the shadows of Emma's story lingered. And for those who had failed her, the weight of their guilt would never fade. The town of Brookhaven, once idyllic and close-knit, carried a permanent scar after the trial of Olivia Carter. The quiet streets and cheerful facades masked an undercurrent of grief, guilt, and reflection. Emma Harper's tragic death had become a cautionary tale, etched into the collective memory of the community. But for those closest to the case, the story wasn't just a piece of history, it was a weight they carried every day. Underscore 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 underscore. David Harper never returned to Brookhaven. After the trial, he moved to a small town 100 miles away, renting a modest apartment and taking a job as a clerk in a hardware store. His once steady life had unraveled completely, and he lived each day in a haze of regret. He rarely spoke to anyone, keeping to himself except for the occasional polite exchange with customers. At night, the silence of his apartment was deafening. On the wall above his bed hung a single framed photo of Emma as a child, her bright smile frozen in time. It was both a comfort and a torment, a reminder of the daughter he had failed to protect. David started writing letters to Emma, though he never sent them anywhere. Page after page, he poured out his remorse, his anguish, his love. "I was blind," one letter read. "I let her manipulate me. I let you down. I should have seen what was happening. I should have saved you." The letters stacked up in a drawer, unsent and unseen by anyone but him. They were his attempt at redemption, though he knew they could never undo the past. Underscore 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 underscore. The Carter family vanished from Brookhaven's social scene almost immediately after Olivia's sentencing. Mr. and Mrs. Carter sold their grand house on Maple Drive and relocated to another state, hoping to rebuild their lives in anonymity. Their once sterling reputation as pillars of the community was now a smoldering ruin, their names synonymous with scandal. Olivia's parents rarely spoke of their daughter. For them, her life sentence was a cruel paradox. She was alive but unreachable, her future stolen by her own choices. They lived in quiet shame, haunted by questions of where they had gone wrong and how they had failed to see the monster their daughter had become. underscore 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 underscore. Detective Michael Barrett returned to his duties at the Brookhaven Police Department, though the Harper case stayed with him. He often revisited the decisions he had made, wondering if there was something more he could have done to prevent the tragedy. He had pursued justice relentlessly, but justice, he realized, did little to heal the wounds left behind. On the first anniversary of Emma's death, Barrett visited her grave. The cemetery was quiet, the only sounds the rustling leaves and distant hum of traffic. He placed a small bouquet of white lilies on her headstone, standing in silence as he reflected on the life lost. "Rest easy, Emma," he murmured. "We'll never forget." Underscore 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 underscore. At Brookhaven High, changes were made in the wake of the tragedy. Anti-bullying programs were implemented, teachers received training to recognize signs of distress, and a memorial scholarship was established in Emma's name. Her story was a constant reminder of what happens when cries for help are ignored. But for the students who had known Emma and Olivia, the scars lingered. Whispers of "the girl who was killed" and "the cheerleader who snapped" wove their way into the fabric of the school's history. Olivia's friends, though they had avoided harsh sentences, carried the burden of their complicity. They, too, became outcasts, their futures dimmed by the choices they had made that fateful night. Underscore 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 underscore. Emma's grave became a place of pilgrimage for those seeking to honor her memory. Flowers, letters, and candles appeared regularly, left by classmates, neighbors, and even strangers who had been touched by her story. Some came to grieve, others to reflect on their own roles in the cycles of cruelty and indifference that had claimed her life. Her legacy stretched beyond Brookhaven. Articles, documentaries, and social media posts turned her story into a nationwide conversation about bullying, manipulation, and the responsibility of communities to protect their most vulnerable. For some, Emma Harper became a symbol of resilience, a reminder to speak out, to intervene, and to fight for justice before it's too late. For others, her story was a painful lesson in the devastating consequences of apathy and unchecked power. Underscore 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 underscore. The shadows left by Emma Harper's death lingered long after the headlines faded. For David, for Olivia, for the town of Brookhaven, the events of that summer would never truly be over. They were a part of the fabric now, woven into every corner of memory, a reminder of both the darkness humanity is capable of and the light lost when we fail to act. And so, the town moved forward, not forgetting, but carrying the weight of its past. The factory where Emma's life ended stood empty, a crumbling monument to a story that would forever echo in the hearts of those who had lived it.